Welcome to Undaunted Voices, the podcast where resilience, identity, and transformations take center stage. These are your hosts, Andrea Belalcazar, Mia Love, and Walt Ash. Today, we're taking you on a personal journey, one that explores what it means to rise through challenge, to grow through honesty, and to find strength and vulnerability. If you've ever faced a turning point and wonder what comes next, this conversation is for you. Let's begin.
Hi, I'm Walt Ash. I'm here with Mia Love and Andrea Belalcazar. Today's episode is about more than surviving. It's about reimagining. Andrea shares her knowledge about scaling global programs that reached thousands. If you've ever felt the tension between surviving systems and trying to change them, then this conversation is for you. From Wall Street to Silicon Valley, Andrea has led from the margins and built systems. To learn more about this, I hand this over to my friend and co-host, Mia Love. Mia?
Thanks so much, Walt. I am super excited that we're here to do this today. And today's guest is the definition of resilience and purpose. Born in Colombia and later becoming an asylee in the United States, Andrea learned English while earning her degree in computer engineering. She rose through Wall Street and Silicon Valley, leading technical programs at Goldman Sachs and Meta. Her expertise spans cloud infrastructure, AI, and scale. But what sets her apart is how she's turned her expertise into tools and belonging. She's built global mentoring programs that reach thousands. And she's also earned the AD Color in Tech Award for her contributions in tech. Please welcome Andrea Belalcazar. Andrea, let's start at the very beginning. Where did your story of resilience begin? What systems were you navigating even before you had the language for them?
Thank you, Mia, and thank you, Walt. I'm very excited to be here with both of you. I'm going to refer to coming to this country as the beginning. I didn't speak the language. All I knew is that I wanted to go to college. When I lived in Colombia, that was my goal, and I didn't see a world different than that. And it didn't change when I came here. What changed was the environment where I was and the systems in place. I just wanted to go to college, and I didn't have the money to do it, so I had to figure out how to make it happen. In the meantime, when we left Colombia because of the crisis that the country was going through at the time, we couldn't go back. So we sought political asylum, and we got it. While I was trying to figure out my life in school, my parents were working 3 jobs, delivering newspapers, cleaning houses, cooking for other people. It was a lot. It was 5 of us in a 1-bedroom apartment. Wow. So you could imagine there was a lot of tension, a lot of change. And none of the opportunities that were available were clear to me, or there was nobody telling me what to do to be able to find them. It felt like at the time, a lot of people, even teachers, had given up on ESL students. I had to challenge the status quo to get people to tell me what the opportunities were. In the meantime, my parents were trying to work and survive. We went through the whole process of residency, and now we're all American citizens. But at some point, we had to rely on food stamps and Medicaid to be able to continue. All those systems were there to support us to be able to have a better life. What really kept me going was my goal. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to be a professional. I wanted to not sleep in 1-bedroom apartment with everybody else in my house.
I want to talk about that because you touched on a lot of really, really important things, and I want to make sure that we have time to get through those, because you talked about being able to challenge the systems that were not set up for someone like you, and how you move forward through those, and watching your parents and their resilience and tapping into all the resources that, some resources are even in question right now. How, when you came to the US and you chose engineering, you obviously had to stay focused on what that bigger vision was that kept you going.
When you came here and you decided you wanted to be an engineer, what was the bigger vision? And then how do you want to be able to use that going forward?
That vision was set on me since I was a little kid. by my parents. My family has had to overcome challenges. It was part of the DNA of how I was raised that you need to go to school and you need to go to college because that's how you're going to do better than us and you progress in life. I remember my parents would always say, anybody can take everything from you, but the one thing they will never take away from you is your education. So you need to study and you need to study hard. Expectations were set from a very early age to understand that life is not easy. And I decided to do engineering because I was good in numbers. I really enjoyed that. And computers at the time were the hit, right? It's the early 2000s. The internet is booming. Everybody's learning about what's going on, what's multimedia. And all that fascinated me. I thought, I'm very good at this. Computers are math. So I'm sure I'm going to be good at this thing. And I went for it. And also, I wanted a career that would give me money. So I wanted to study something that would help me have the life I wanted and help me support my family the same way they were supporting me. So all those things came from an early age. And that was my path. But life happens and we had to leave the country from one moment to another and leave all my dreams behind of what things should have been in Colombia. But the baseline was still there. What this early stage of my life taught me was to learn to navigate uncertainty. When you have a destination, you can figure out your path. That's your hope. And that was clear. What wasn't clear is how I was going to get there. Many times I was making it up as I went.
Yeah.
And also, I can't emphasize enough, there are people that connected me and supported me too. Those people became guides, mentors that really changed my life. And that's how I grew, I learned.
You know what I find so interesting is listening to your reflection and the way that you feel about math versus the way you feel about writing is the complete opposite. I will write anything for you. As soon as you start talking about math, my brain completely shuts down. If you open Microsoft Excel, my eyes cross and I'm ready to cry. But if you open Word, I will write your entire dissertation. And for me, going through the GATE program, the gifted and talent, they put you in those programs and don't give you a way to churn through the other side of it. And I realized a lot of my anxiety came through being put in these programs and being taught to perform and mask and not knowing how to process those things, right? And not knowing how to say, I have no idea what's going on because now I'm in this program where you expect that I'm supposed to be able to perform at this high level in math. And I don't know what you're talking about, but I can't say I don't get math, but I'm amazing at English. You can't do those things. So I had to sweat and cram and deal with everything that came with not knowing how to do that part of it. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
No, and I relate to that very much because I had the same experience, but in the opposite side. They put me on these regular classes. I fought for being in honors once I learned what the honors were. And then that's where I started learning a lot of coping skills and growing. I was coming to be who I am. And I built really great relationships with my teachers to the point that they would stay after school for hours to go over the concept with me. And once in those honors classes, I did well. I had to work with that system in place because that is what was available to me at the time. For example, my physics teacher, he would say, I say how long it is needed so you can understand what I'm talking about. And that's how I was able to progress. Also the same with my American history teacher, which in American history, it's all about reading. And for me, I would be at home crying because I'm with a dictionary translated word by word when I had 2 chapters to memorize before next day. But I think that navigating that taught me the value of relationships, taught me persistence, resilience, taught me that that's the life that I have and I need to embrace it. Also gave me the feel to make things easier for others coming after.
100%.
There were times I just did not want to be any part of reading English history or history books, or I just wanted to be able to do math. It was simpler for me. And there were some instances where, some of the books that I had to read, either I couldn't relate to based on the background that I had, or if I was one of a dozen Black kids in that school, and then having to go and have my class read To Kill a Mockingbird, and understanding that like they thought it'd be really cool if I was acting as the antagonist instead of the lawyer. And I said, I cannot talk like this. I cannot call people the N-word and things like that, or other epithets that were part of that book. I just cannot do it. And having to deal with that experience within the school, but then understanding that if I continue to fight for what I thought was right at that point and being able to get through it, get through the challenges of being younger, get through the challenges of being able to understand that I still added value in the class that I had, that it would make it worthwhile. And that was part of the challenges that I had as well.
Oof, that's a whole episode in and of itself.
I admire you for being resilient enough to be able to take what you needed to do and reach out to be able to do that. And I admire you for what you're still doing with that to this day.
Thank you.
Exactly. That leads us into the next part, realizing that impact isn't scalable without friction. So let's talk a little bit about friction. What were some of the invisible walls you kept hitting when you tried to move from being great at your job to truly making an impact?
Yes.
Talk about what that looked like. And can I add, just talk about your authenticity and talk about your identity in those spaces.
Yes. Part of the transition through each of those environments was learning the unwritten rules and then learning how you relate to them. What are the things that you need to evolve? Authenticity, the way I see it, is an opportunity for you to drive from your own confidence. However, as we progress through different experiences, we also need to learn from those experiences. It's that balance between the new world and your world and knowing where to push and where to pull. That is incredibly important as you adapt to new worlds, new environments, new systems. You can't fight a system from the outside. You need to understand the system and look for ways to be able to change that system. It's going to be hard for you to change something that you're not familiar with, that you can't empathize with. That's how I kept true to myself. And then understanding what really mattered to me. So one thing that one of my mentors told me once is, know your non-negotiables. And then after that, work with whatever you get and you make it work.
Okay.
So that, and that to me comes down to your own values. And my core value was to support my clients through the lenses of how is this better for them. Always balancing between decisions that make immediate impact and decisions that make long-term impact. But you can't do it alone. You need to find the people that will support you through that journey. And I think my authenticity wasn't the opinion I had, because sometimes my opinions were not the ones that won the arguments. It was how I went about doing things and my work ethic and what people should expect from me. That's my authenticity.
Yeah.
And your work ethic and your experience, how did you go about understanding how to use that background for your visibility and show that you knew what you were doing?
The skills I gained through those experiences helped me moving forward, right? I am really good at transforming worlds. And I think that comes from my core, my beginnings, because I made a world happen for myself. I'm the kind of person that always felt if I do a good job and I just listen to what everybody's saying and I do what they want, I will be great. And then I came to corporate America and I did that. And guess what? Situations change and people may not necessarily bring you along the journey of how the situations have changed. I have learned not to take things personal. My contribution was that I would work as hard as I can to get the things done. And they learn to identify what are the things that really need to get done and not take things so literal. And that's coming back to reading between the lines, understanding the unwritten rules. And with that, bring your own contribution to it. So once you understand the map of what's in front of you, you can act. Then you can bring your resilience, your persistence. You can drive forward what needs to get driven forward. Because at the end of the day, technology is not the problem. Operations are not the problem. The solutions sometimes are very straightforward, but making the solutions successful through the people that you need to work with is what is going to make it or break it. Another thing that we learned is that sometimes, even though you see how things are going and not going to end up well, because your experience have shown you that, you might sometimes need to let things fail And that's
Exactly.
very difficult lesson to learn and apply.
I definitely learned that too. When I was an intern while I was in school and I worked for IBM, they asked me to try and take care of putting together a program, keep track of dangerous chemicals. And they had been told by one of the computer science people that it would take a year to be able to put that together. I was found a way to be able to do it within 2 weeks. I said, why can this intern do it in 2 weeks when you told us it's going to take a year? And so they had to go back and I had to understand, okay, well, maybe I need to slow my roll a little bit or understand how to apply that process and not get the people in trouble or alienate it with me.
When you had to say, okay, I can do this in a shorter amount of time, I don't think that necessarily comes from naivety. That comes from our origin stories as minorities, because we've consistently had to work twice as hard to get that recognition. You have to outperform a lot of people, and that's something that's programmed in you to make sure that you get it done, to make sure that you're outperforming. And on the other end, sometimes that has negative impacts. Like, look at this little kid, Walter's over here doing it twice as much. But in your mind, you're like, I got to get this job done. I wasn't trying to make you look bad. I was just trying to make sure that I get through this internship. And sometimes it's a double-edged sword.
That's how you build your reputation. And that's the right thing to do at that time. But then there is a transition between surviving to thriving.
Right.
And that is understanding when you need to push and when you need to pull, when you need to take a little bit longer and when you need to build buffers in between so you don't burn out and burn down your team. That's something I had to learn too when I became a manager for the first time, because I was used to working really fast, very quick with high quality work, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody works at the same speed. They also bring other perspectives. There are different levels of creativity. There is different priorities. And as you evolve, knowing that difference of when to push and when to pull on speed will help you be more scalable as well.
So scaling with intention, which was going to be my next question for you. So now that you've led programs impacting tens of thousands of people, what does scaling with intention mean to you today? And it sounds like you were going into that.
Yes. So when you think about scale, I think about experiences and what is it that you're scaling and for whom you're scaling. Making something that is good, that works for a few, to work for many, without minimizing the amount of quality in the process. That, for me, is core. That's why AI has been so successful. AI has allowed for the customization of experiences, and over time, it's becoming more and more exact. And that's why it's loved by people.
Step by step, yep.
That is a key principle for scale. So once you understand that, you start looking into the pros and cons of the decisions that you need to make. And one of the things that was very important to me as a leader is to know all the possible situations and the options. And then when you start, what is key is empathy, being able to put yourself on other people's shoes. Because if you're able to put yourself in those shoes, you don't necessarily need to agree with them, but you could understand why they do what they do and what could they do next.
It helps you to negotiate as well. So where do you find the point of negotiation and where do you find the point of letting go?
That's a great question. And that comes back to what I said earlier. Know your non-negotiables. That's where you draw the line, because sometimes we start with an idea of something and we get lost in the process. It's okay if an idea changes, but you need to understand why they changed. It's going to help you stay connected with what success will look like. When I started working on the mentorship program, it completely changed the culture of the company that I work with. And when I started, I was told, we don't do mentorship here. That's not going to work. Please choose something else to do. And I was just like, okay, thank you for your feedback. Can you share a little bit more about why that is? Why do you think that's the case? And then they gave me a laundry list of reasons why they thought that was impossible. Okay, so now you gave me something to work with. I say, thank you very much for your feedback. Let me get back to you. I ran my user research to understand what people needed across multiple spectrums. I did it with the employees, mentors. I did it through leadership to understand like the value to them. I did it through people that were doing bespoke programs. And then once I got that feedback, I understood where people was coming from. The data is showing me that people need mentorship. So my non-negotiable was, we are doing mentorship. How we go about it, Let's talk about it.
And that's how you were able to determine like what was worth scaling and what was worth letting go once you had your non-negotiables.
Exactly. And this is the thing. This friction that I had up front was really what guided the core of the program. They gave me the requirements of what needed to be fulfilled in order for this to be successful. So I built relationships with senior leaders that were advocates that could argue in behalf of this idea, right? Because I no longer wanted to have a friction. I wanted to work with them and bring them along in the journey. And that's the working hard part. Before, you needed to be strategic. Coming up with another program overnight wasn't going to cut it. It took me 6 months to get this part going, but it was necessary in order for me to set the path for success. And that's how I did it.
So you've talked about the things that you're building that will outlast you and changing the landscape for the next generation. That mentorship program, especially in an organization that was hoping not to have that, is something that's very, very important.
And understanding how that would impact the next generation. Yeah, that's
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question, and then we're going to go into some quick reflections. So what would you do differently as a leader that your younger self wouldn't have understood yet?
Yes.
First thing that pops into your head.
Learning to let go.
Okay, learning to let go. Okay, now let's close with some reflections. What's one lesson about impact that took you years to learn?
One lesson about impact that took me years to learn is not everything happens overnight, but you need to make progress. So we need to be able to build in a way that your stakeholders are comfortable with and leave a space for expressing them.
Makes sense.
Because that helps with getting more resources to continue growing and managing expectations really well.
So if you're not used to making those changes and making those presentations, what advice would you give to someone who wants to make change, but they're not sure where to start to be able to make that impact happen?
Talk to people. Talk to everyone around you. Talk to leaders, talk to your peers, talk to people junior to you, talk to people that is doing the job you want to do or that did the job you wanted to do. That's how you get your roadmap. And that's how you understand what worked before, what didn't. But when you come with fireworks promising the earth and beyond, people will be very skeptical. But if you make relationships work for you in a genuine way, and that's what authenticity comes. Being genuine, be yourself, build a reputation of being somebody that is integral, things will fall in place.
That makes sense. Okay, can you finish this sentence? Scaling impact isn't about more. It's about
building for people in a way that it works for them in a high volumes.
I can definitely appreciate that. Thank you so much for having this conversation with us. You've shown us what it looks like to build with heart and lead with intention, understand where you've come from, and be able to apply it and scale without losing yourself. Before we go, what's one small thing that you actually think makes a difference in your day-to-day?
Just having personal relationships where you get to joke around and be playful, where you get to show people that side of you that you most likely can't when you're driving at 10,000 miles per hour. I think that is key. With my team, we had those moments. Wasn't every day, but once a week or once a month, we would just get together and play Jeopardy or some kind of game and not talk about work. It helps you get to know people in a different light. And when things get tough, they will be there for you because they appreciate that you care for them.
We definitely care about what you just said. And I want to thank you for sharing your amazing journey with us and Mia for guiding us through the episode. And for those of you at home who are listening and trying to scale something with heart, we want to hear from you too. Send us your story. The email's in the description. And until next time, stay undaunted. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Undaunted Voices, where resilience, identity, and transformation take center stage. Your hosts were Andrea Belalcazar, Mia Love, and Walt Ash. If today's episode inspired you, share it with someone who'd love it too. You can send us your feedback, suggest future topics, or even join us as a guest at undauntedvoices.com. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and all major social media platforms. Links are in the episode description. Keep rising, undaunted.